Hello, I've just read chapter 2 of The Last of the Jedi Dark Warning. I do want to say the Dark Warning, but no, it is just Dark Warning. Again, this is another, you pick up right where the last chapter left off. And it is a bit of a frustrating solution to the cliffhanger of last chapter. Because in the last chapter they said there was no way for Obi-Wan and Ferris to get out. They were surrounded, there was no way for them to get out. And then the solution is right after Tahahan passes Fett a blaster because he lost his bit because his was destroyed when fighting Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan and Ferris just leap to a ship in repair. And that's how they get out, so there was a way out. So it was a bit when you say they're surrounded and there's no way out, this is the same problem I had with Ferris being taken into the Imperial Garrison in the previous book. I want to say previous chapter, but no, it is book, and it says that Obi-Wan there was no chance that Obi-Wan would have been able to get there in time before the doors properly shut, and then he winds up getting there in time and before the gate is properly shut, and so this is kind of a repeat of that. I do think that's maybe a little bit annoying, but at least in this case it wasn't as bad as explicitly saying he couldn't get there before the gates shut, and then he winds up doing that. He winds up getting there before the gates shut. So at least it wasn't as bad as it was in the last book. So they're now hiding behind so now Obi-Wan and Ferris are hiding behind the ship the cruiser in repair. Daharan's laser cannon has overheated. What was Boba Fett doing? Oh yeah, Fett's blaster couldn't penetrate the ship. And so Obi-Wan takes this opportunity to kind of muster up a plan, because Taharan and Fett didn't really give them a chance to do so as they were advancing on them before they leapt. So now Obi-Wan looks up to the top of the hangar. Again, I was really struggling to picture this because it is just here, there, everywhere, and it's where even are they? I know they're saying they're in a hangar, but I kept imagining the ships can't be outside of a hangar on like a asteroid, and a bit like Polis Master, but not Polis Master. I was struggling to envision what was going on. I was just going along with it. But Obi-Wan looks up to some support beams on top, and he asks if Ferris can make it, and then Ferris asks, can a bantha fly? And Obi-Wan goes, actually, no, and Ferris replies saying, you're a stickler for the details, Obi-Wan. And then they hear a fire of a laser cannon from, of course, Taharan. And his laser cannons cool down a little bit. And another reason why Obi-Wan wanted to get up onto the beams on the roof, if I didn't explain, he wanted to jump up on there. It was also because then he could solely focus on Fett, who was the more dangerous of the two. He was the one with the cunning, while Taharan will be stuck on the ground at a disadvantage. But anyway, once they hear Taharan opening fire on the repairs, Obi-Wan leaps up onto the beams, and Fett, I think, opens fire on him as he does. Does he? Yeah, he leaps up onto one of the struts, and Ferrus leaps on top of another ship and then tries to leap onto one of them. His hand grazes the strut and then Obi-Wan is able to catch him and bring him up. Again, this fight is a bit all over the place because the way I was envisioning it, it really just is what's going on, where are they? And it really just is a bit of, I wonder how Jude Watson was imagining the whole scene. Because it really is, where are they? What is going on? But anyway, Boba Fett then flies up. Obi-Wan and Ferrus start running to the back of the hangar with Obi-Wan deflecting bolts from Fett. Ferrus starts throwing out laser cutting discs from his what's it called? Pockets. I really forgot the word pockets. I remembered laser cutting discs. And they started, and one of them even cut a crack into Boba Fett's shoulder plate, and Boba Fett is desperately trying to dodge them. Obi-Wan silently congratulates Ferrus's inventiveness, and to be fair, when it was first described as him throwing a disc, I did think, were they the throwing discs used by the Malaysian assassins in Darth Plagueis? I know this came out 7 years before Darth Plagueis came out, but I was still thinking, could it have been the throwing discs? But no, they were the laser cutting blades of a cutting torch. So no. As they're doing that, Obi-Wan, as Ferrus is doing that, Obi-Wan then turns around to go and charge Fett. And he jumps, and I'm fairly sure it says he jumps, does it? No, it doesn't say he jumps, but I just imagined he did, because it said he was careening toward Boba Fett. Okay, okay. But Obi-Wan, he swings his lightsaber to cut off the bolts of a panel up on the roof. And Boba Fett starts and while Jahahan is charging up a blast. Obi-Wan then is able to get out of the way while Fett tries to stop Jahahan from opening fire, but he opens fire. The sheet of Durasteel that Obi-Wan cut the bolts off of falls down and crushes Jahahan. It pins his back down and pins down his legs, or crushes him, whatever it was. It was just pinning them down. Was just going on down? Yeah, it was just pinning down his legs. Then Obi-Wan and Ferrus jump down. Ferrus to try and... Fett gets out of the way, by the way. But then Ferrus and Obi-Wan jump back down. They go to try and chase and stop Fett. And Ferrus goes running behind takes shelter behind the ships to try and to get behind Fett and corner him. And hold on. Sorry about that. Where was I? I think it was Ferrus was going around the ships to take shelter and try and get around Fett to corner him with Obi-Wan. Because again, with Jahahan temporarily out of commission, this is a one chance to get Fett. But things start to go wrong for Obi-Wan and Ferrus as the security team, the security officers, now starts to get involved. Because pilots fighting is one thing, but property damage, that's another. So everyone in the security starts coming around. Fett has now got a whole load of stuff to deal with. He's got Obi-Wan to deal with, he's got Ferris to deal with, he's got the security officers to deal with. All without Tahahan, because Tahahan's is now stuck down, and when Obi-Wan gets up to Tahahan, and I think it destroys the control panel for his laser cannon, was it? Yeah, he does, he destroys the control panel. And you just have Tahahan there saying, oh, what's he say? Now we'll all be in prison together. Ferris leaned down. We're not going anywhere with you, you slab of circuit parts. And earlier he says, you think you've won. You think you won, don't you? But we don't lose. One day you'll be another Jedi prisoner on Coruscant. Malorum has his ways. But then Trevor finally appears, because I was complaining about him going missing in last chapter, with a brand new ship that he's traded for. And Obi-Wan and Ferris make a run for it. They go and get it on the ship, while the security officers open fire, and presumably Boba Fett as well, and they start flying away, and Ferris just... I'll just read out the last bit, because it should just pretty much explain itself. Nice driving, kid, Ferris told Trevor. Where'd you get the ship? Trevor's face was flushed. Traded for it while you were dancing around. I figured we'd need a clean getaway. Not so clean, Obi-Wan said. A glowing light was streaking across the sky. Boba Fett had escaped to his ship, and that's where we end off the chapter. So again, I quite enjoyed this chapter. Sorry, got to move my bookmark. There we go. I had it on the last page of the previous of chapter 2, rather on the first page of chapter 3, the bookmarks. So yeah, I enjoyed this chapter. Don't know why it couldn't have been part of chapter 1. Again, this is the exact same thing I had a problem with in the Desperate Mission. I only really brought it up for the first 3 chapters in the Desperate Mission, but it was definitely something that has happened a few times with the Desperate Mission, where it was, why are they separate chapters? It literally picks up from where the last one left off. They could have been the same chapter. There was no reason to not have them be the same chapter, but also I'm kind of glad that they're not the same chapter, because it does break it up, and I think that just makes the book more digestible. I do like it when the book is broken up a little bit to make it more digestible, even though sometimes the breaking up can be a bit illogical at times, like here. But I am still glad it is broken up into separate chapters in some scenes, because it does just make the book more digestible. I think, and you can always read on the next chapter if you want. For these reviews, I typically end of the chapter, do the review, and then maybe have a break or do the next chapter right away or whatever. So yeah. But anyway, I enjoyed this chapter. We got a few more quippy lines from Ferris. Again, I do like Ferris's jokes, and I know it was said in the Desperate Mission that Ferris joking from everyone's perspective. That Ferris is completely different to how he knew him back when he was in the Jedi Order. But yeah. Oh, speaking of Ferris being in the Jedi Order, we do get to learn a little bit about Ferris. I think it's in this chapter. Yeah, it's in the first line he has in the chapter is, hang on. I wish I had a lightsaber, and we learn he turns his lightsaber in. And he says, now would be a good time to draw yours, Obi-Wan, when they do leap for cover behind the cruiser being repaired. So, yeah, and he does have a lightsaber on the cover of the book. But, so I assume, and I do look at Ferris's Wikipedia article, and it says that's him on the Ilum. So I assume we're going to go to Ilum and Polis Master at some point. But I assume in the next chapter, I assume it's probably going to be a space battle between Boba Fett, Trevor, Ferris and Obi-Wan. So, yeah. I'm not sure if Taharn's still on the, is still on the Red Twin spaceport though. That would have been, I think that would be a bit funny if that is the case. If Boba Fett just left Taharn there to fend for himself somehow because his laser cannon head that he's able to destroy houses is gone. But yeah, I'm looking again. I'm enjoying the book. I am enjoying the book, and I am looking forward to continuing it. I don't really have a whole lot else to say because it is pretty much just an extension of the previous chapter, and it is a very action-packed thing, and it isn't really there isn't always a whole lot to say about the action. So it was good. So yeah, I guess I do kind of wish we got to see what was going on with Trevor. And I do think in the last chapter, I kind of wish we got to see what was going on with Ferris and Taharn when they were fighting, because Ferris went to distract Taharn, but we only saw it from Obi-Wan's perspective. We only saw Obi-Wan fighting Boba Fett. We didn't cut away to Ferris and Taharn at any point. So I do maybe think we could have at least seen a bit of Ferris versus Taharn. And I do think maybe we could have seen Trevor making the trade deal. But overall, they are very small criticisms. I'm fine that we don't have them. And honestly, with how it would extend out the book, I am glad we don't have them. And I think the reveal of Trevor having the chip is a bit better. It probably works better without seeing him make the trade. So, yeah. But, yeah. That should pretty much do it for my review of Chapter 2. Only got, how many chapters? 16? Ooh. that sounded a lot less in my head, but to be fair, I did go through 20 chapters in only a week, so... And with Plagueis, I've done 30 chapters on a prologue in a week, so not really that much, really. But yeah, I enjoyed the book. But not the book. I'm not even finished with the book yet. I don't know why I'm still talking. I'm just end the review. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye, and I did enjoy the chapter. Hello, I've just read Chapter 3 of The Last of the Jedi Dark Warning. Again, this is continuing right off from Chapter 2. Boba Fett is chasing them, and I think it's Obi-Wan suggests that they need to get into hyperspace so they can lose them in hyperspace. And then Trevor says, yeah, that would be great if we had a hyperdrive. And then Ferris and Trevor start bickering with each other as Ferris is saying, you traded for a ship without a hyperdrive? And Trevor, what does Trevor say? Because I know I'm probably going to start mixing up some of his lines and getting them out of order. And he tells him that he didn't have much time, and then Ferris says, we're at the edge of the Outer Rim, where every ship has a hyperdrive except this one. And then Trevor starts saying, man, it didn't seem so choosy. You didn't seem to be so choosy when I came to rescue you. But Obi-Wan pretty much what does he say? he pretty much breaks it up with a suggestion saying that they could try and lose him that they could try and lose Fett in a nearby asteroid field or nebula. And Ferris takes over the controls while Obi-Wan looks at the nav computer, and Obi-Wan finds that there's a nebula not about a few minutes away. And so they try to start going there. And there isn't really a whole lot of notes to really talk about, because it is just a space battle where they're being chased by Fett. They eventually... They do take a bit of damage. And in there they realise they're starting to run out of fuel, and Trevor says, but the pilot told me he just filled up the ship, and then Ferris tells him to never trust the pilot. They eventually, again, they just keep getting hit. Fett winds up firing a proton torpedo, and Ferris says, this is a cargo ship, isn't it, Trevor? And Trevor says, it is. Well, no, Obi-Wan, says that. Trevor nods, and Obi-Wan says to release the cargo, and so they release the cargo. It destroys the torpedo locks onto that, and presumably, of course, it's it. Eventually they enter a star tunnel, whatever that's meant to mean, and they're in an atmosphere. Again, whatever that's meant to mean. An atmosphere in a star tunnel. This is a part of the book. This is the part of the chapter where I'm just thinking, what, it does not make any sense in the slightest. But they're flying through there, and they just can't shake Boba Fett, and they're riding a current. And Ferris asks Trevor how he did one of his manoeuvres on his grav sled back in USA, because he used to use it like an airspeeder to try and to escape Imperial security. And then Trevor asks which action, and Ferris tells him the one where he would pretend to spin out, then recover and zoom off. And Trevor says that works every time, and that it needed a specific touch and needed a bit more power to the stabilisers. And Ferris says that they'll need a little bit of extra, if they're going to need a little bit of extra speed to perform it, and if he could patch some of the power from the hydraulics into the engines or whatever it was, and everyone says, but if we do that, we won't have enough braking power to land. Again, Fett starts opening fire, I think, and they're also coming up to a planet called Denita, and they're dodging and weaving behind all the satellites, behind the 20 satellites on there. And we learn that Denita was abandoned in the Clone Wars because the planet just got decimated by so many battles, and everyone on the planet just emigrated to the core. But anyway, back to what was going on. Trevor says that they can worry about landing once they're out of this predicament, and Obi-Wan says, but we can worry about landing when we get out of this predicament, and Ferris says that's exactly what I was thinking. So Trevor patches it through, and Ferris starts flying straight towards the satellite, and then pretending again to start flying out of control. And then they turn away just at the last second, and Fett continues flying on, and he evacuates his ship as it crashes into the satellite. and his ship isn't destroyed. Boba Fett is still alive, but they're not. But he's going to be stuck there for a while, and Ferris hopes that they don't see him again, but he has a feeling they will. And now they have a problem with landing to deal with. Again, I think the main, if I have anything really to say about this chapter, it is where on earth are they when they're flying through the star tunnel? Because what on earth is that meant to mean? Is it a tunnel of stars? You know, what is that meant to mean? And then there's an atmosphere in the star tunnel. What is that meant to mean? You know, I know what an atmosphere is, but you know, an atmosphere in space in a star tunnel isn't a nebula, because and they're meant to be in a nebula. Isn't a nebula just made of clouds of gases and dust? You know, isn't that what a nebula is? So where on earth are they? Yeah, where are they? And it was a bit confusing to try and picture. Sorry, I'm just checking through in case I missed anything, because it did not take me long at all to summarise what happened. Okay, one thing I did miss. Ferris does start using the Force kind of assist him in flying. And it does say, in times of need, Ferris was able to access it and use it that had never fully gone away. He felt it move through him and he relaxed his grip on the controls. Once he had based his life on trusting the Force, he had to remember to do that again. And there is a funny moment where Ferris says, he says, I've still got a couple more tricks, and then it says, and Ferris hopes that was true. So yeah, that was quite funny. But again, not a whole lot to say on this on the first 3 chapters so far, because it is just they are just so action-packed, and there's not really a whole lot to say with the action-packed chapters, because there isn't really a whole lot of significance that goes on. But yeah, that's the first 3 of the 18 chapters out the way. I've got 15 to go now. But yeah. For Dark Warning, this is quite a short review compared to the previous 2, which went on for almost 20 minutes. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye. Hello! Welcome back to my review of The Last of the Jedi Dark Warning. I have just read Chapter 4. Again, back with the action. Hopefully next chapter we're going to slow down a little bit, but Obi-Wan, Ferris and Trevor, they've been able to, of course, strand Boba Fett, and now they're trying to find a way to land. They don't want to land on the planet of Senator below, because again it's uninhabited and it's too close for comfort to Boba Fett. And also they're running low on fuel, and there's a very low chance there would actually be any fuel for them to scavenge on the planet there below. So Obi-Wan looks at the nav computer and sees that there is a planet called Akarin. the ships, the nav computer says they will run out of fuel before they get there, but if they carefully manage their fuel, they will be able to get a few more kilometers out and get there. And so Obi-Wan and Ferris and so they decide that's their best chance. And it's a large planet. There may be a spaceport or shipyard, an orbiting spaceport or shipyard, so they may be able to get some fuel there. Maybe even, of course, have a ship switch. And so they make their way over to the planet of Akuin. And once they get there, Obi-Wan tries to talk on the comms, and he's not getting a response, even on the open line. And Ferris is saying, that is strange, keep trying. And he winds up bringing himself down into the planet atmosphere, and he says he hates having to arrive without permission, but they've got no choice. Again, they're running very low on fuel, they need to get that fuel, maybe even have a ship switch so they can get a hyperdrive. So they start lowering down into the deep inner atmosphere, and Trevor points out to sees orange streaks and asks what they are, and Obi-Wan says it may be cosmic gas. Ferris says no, in deep inner atmospheres, orange streaks can be the afterburn of a missile, can indicate the afterburn of a missile, and then they have another orange streak come their way, which is from blaster fire. And it's Imperial assault ships, which I assume is just another name for Star Destroyer. Actually, let me Google it. Imperial assault ship Star Wars. Oh, okay, it's just, I guess it's just like the Venitors, I guess. No, oh, here we go, Imperial Assault Shuttle. Is that it? Maybe? No? I don't know. But it just is Imperial Assault ship, and they're chasing 3 renegade starfighters, and they send out some TIE fighters, and Ferris is upset that they've been led into a war, and eventually one of the renegade fighters flies over to their ship and draws the attention of the Imperial forces onto Ferris, Obi-Wan and Trevor, as well as the renegades. Now they're trying to, and now Obi-Wan looks at the nav compute, that's what was it, the transgraphical sensor or something like that? What was it? No, that's actually a few pages too early. The topographical sensor. Sorry, not the transgraphical. And he says that there's a canyon that they can go and hide in, which again is quite reminiscent of the last book where he had to crash land in the snow and to hide from Boba. But they try to start going down there for cover. Actually, did they decide to go there before or after the attention was brought onto them? Yeah, they decided to go there before the attention was brought onto them, sorry. And anyway, they start to make their way down there, and Ferris says the renegade ship is forcing them down. I should just keep the book open for this, honestly. Yeah, they keep going down. The renegade ship above them gets its smoke blocks their view. Ferris can't see anything. They crash land. Ferris is able to find a blaster in the pilot's compartment, and the 3 of them leave the ship as it's crashed on its side, and the landing ramp can't quite open up fully. But as they leave, with Ferris leading with the blaster out in his hand, the the pilot of the renegade ship also is there, coming out of his own ship, pointing his blaster at them, even fires a few times, or at least once, and tells them to not move. He says, "Don't move, if you move you're dead." And that's where we end off the chapter. Again, this has really been a very action-packed start to the book. With 30 pages in, we've got about another 108 pages to go, but still this is a really action-packed opening. You can't still, with 4 chapters in now, I've read 4 chapters, next will be chapter 5, and we still haven't had a chance to kind of just slow down and relax. Yeah, it's not that I don't, not that I'm complaining about it, but it just does seem a bit like when we're having the slower moments, because it just seems to be Obi-Wan, Ferris and Trevor getting chased around for the first part of the book. And, you know, there's only 18 chapters. We've only got 14 more to go now. It definitely seems like if there were more chapters, it wouldn't seem like such a big impact on the book. But because it is 18 chapters in total, it does seem like it is maybe putting a big dent in the book. Again, not complaining too much, and again, it is one book in a series of 10, so I can't really judge it too much on that, can I? And I know there's still a whole lot more to come with Police Master and such, but I just do find it funny that the first 4 chapters are just back to back to back. Action, 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 and we just haven't really had a chance to slow down, stop and rest, you know. But yeah, I enjoy, and it also means I can't really give you any deep reviews for these chapters, because again, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. I think the most significant thing of note that we can talk about is that Obi-Wan knew someone called Garen Muln? Muln? M-U-L-N? Muln? I don't know how you meant to pronounce that. Garen Muln. On the planet of Akarin, and he presumes him dead from Order 66. Which does make me think, are we going to see Garen? Because again, it just says he was presumed dead. It doesn't necessarily mean he is. Maybe he is, but but you know, maybe he isn't. So yeah, that's something to kind of wait for and see. Maybe the pilot is Garen. It will be funny if it's "Don't move, if you move you're dead," and then the opening of the next chapter, Garen! That will be funny, but yeah. And anyway, I mean, again, enjoy the chapter, but again, not really a whole lot to talk about, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I enjoyed the chapter, and if I've got to end the recording now, otherwise I'm just going to continue blabbering on. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Come back next time, and I'll see you all again later, soon, whatever. Bye.